Why did England's Civil War lead to the restoration of its monarchy? The experimentation with republicanism in England began about the middle of the 17th century. It was a collision of ideas that led to the creation of this experiment. The divine right of monarchs, the ability to tax, and the separation of powers, as well as the imminent separation of King Charles's head from his body, are all topics that are being discussed. And after this, England went without a monarchy for more than a decade before re-establishing Charles's son as King Charles II. However, considering that the nation had been operated without a king for the entirety of this period of time, it is unclear why Parliament and the people felt the need to reinstate the monarchy. Consequently, Charles III continued to have a contentious relationship with Parliament during his entire reign. Charles was of the opinion that as the designated ruler of these territories by God, it was the responsibility of every single person who lived there to remain silent and to abide by his instructions at all times. Quite a few members of Parliament came to a different conclusion. Throughout the entirety of his reign, the most of the disagreements that Charles had with Parliament concerned the issue of taxation. To be more specific, the question of whether or not the king had the ability to impose taxes on his own. On the other hand, there were disagreements about topics of religion, particularly with the tolerance of Catholics, and the manner in which to approach the administration of Ireland. There were other instances during the course of the king's reign in which he dismissed Parliament because he was unable to get his way. Additionally, during the uprising in Ireland, there were members of Parliament who held the belief that Charles was conspiring with the Catholic rebels in Ireland to bring down Parliament. As a result, he elevates himself to the position of absolute monarch, much as Louis XIV and Louis XIV accomplished for France. The monarch was concerned that his adversaries were planning to remove him from power, and as a result, he attempted to have them detained. As a result of his failure, he courageously quit London. As a consequence of this, Parliament demanded that his power be restricted. As a result of his unexpected refusal, the time had come to go to war. When everything was said and done, Parliament emerged victorious. Charles was taken into custody, he incited insurrection, and he was prosecuted for treason. After being found guilty, the king was executed by beheading in the year 1649. There was still another war, which Parliament triumphed over, and by the year 1653, Oliver Cromwell, the Lord Protector, was in charge of a military dictatorship in England. In spite of the numerous efforts that were made to abolish the monarchy, it was reinstated just 7 years after it had been abolished. Then why is that? To be honest, there were a lot of reasons. First, Cromwell was the person who was responsible for keeping everything in order, and following his death, his son was appointed to the position of Lord Protector. And Richard Cromwell, in contrast to his father, did not have a high level of esteem. Many people were of the opinion that his weak hand would result in another civil war, which was something that everyone wished to avoid. They had a very strong sense of moral righteousness and a crackdown on behaviors that they considered were sinful, such as drunkenness or, most famously, the celebration of Christmas. The second reason was that many of those in control were Puritans. They had a very strong sense of moral righteousness. The reinstatement of a leader who would leave them alone was a plus in the eyes of those individuals who had to live by the laws, despite the fact that they may have disagreed with them. This was not a very enjoyable experience for those individuals. The third reason was that Charles Stuart made it abundantly obvious that the vast majority of those who fought against his father would be forgiven, that those who were in positions of power would keep their places, and that, in contrast to his father, he would reign as a monarch who would be constrained by the wishes of Parliament. When all of these factors were taken into consideration, Charles Stuart made his way back to England from the Netherlands in the year 1660. At the same time, both sides reached an agreement to pretend that the Civil War and the subsequent regicide had never taken place. However, a few decades later, some of the same issues continued to arise. Thank you for following this video. I invite you to subscribe to this channel to keep up to date with the next super interesting videos that will be released. Leave a like and a comment below, also with requests on what topics you would like me to talk about. See you in the next video.